Youth Ministry Nation, I'm AC. This is Kirk Johnston. We're going to talk today about small groups.
Aha! And surfing, maybe. If we get around
I'm
to it.
never going surfing.
Oh, we'll talk about
Let's
it.
talk youth ministry.
Yep. Good to see you. Long
I'm
time.
never going surfing.
Well,
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 let me
I-
not say never. My
You
son
know-
is coming up, and
Yes,
my
he's
daughter,
very-
she was actually out
they like
on
the water.
Yeah, and she was out on one of those boogie boards.
Yes.
Further than I would have
Yes.
allowed her to be out.
We call them
if I
body
would've been
boards
there.
now. Boogie
Oh.
boards were from the 70s.
Well, I
They've
call
been
them.
called boogie boards
I
since
call-
you were AJ's age.
I call them. I call them an hors d'oeuvre tray.
You call them
For
something
sharks.
that will never be in the water.
I call them an appetizer tray. That's what I call them.
For sure. Hey, we're going to the beach as a team. Our whole student ministries team, our annual end of
Yeah.
the summer beach party next Friday.
Every year.
Yeah.
And you try to get me to
I
go
know.
in.
I think this is your year. Okay, small group season is, for some people, kind of has already kicked off. For others, it's right at the very beginning. For us, we're kind of at the very beginning of getting our small group sign-ups going,
Yeah.
registration started. We've had lots of conversations in our own ministry about small groups. I popped into
Last
Jessica
year.
and Travis's office today, and they were working on small group material and
Yeah.
promo.
Promotions.
We've gotten some emails with questions about small groups. So,
Yeah.
because small groups is such a massive part of most youth ministries, or a big part of most youth ministries,
Yeah.
maybe not massive, it's a massive part of our youth ministry. We actually have more students attending. If you were to count butts in the seats, we have more students sitting in a small group on a midweek
Wednesday or
than
Tuesday
we do
night.
on
yeah.
our weekend worship services. Kind of our outreach youth
Yeah.
services. Very interesting. Anyway, so what we thought we'd do is we would take the next two shows. It's not very often we dedicate two shows to a topic, but
Yeah.
small groups we think is worth it. So we've kind of combined our conversations, some of the emails we've got, and we've just kind of got 4 questions / basic things to think about
Yeah.
concerning small groups that we're going to cover 2 today.
And we're talking about these things. This is an ongoing
Ongoing
topic
conversation.
for us.
Yep.
Even as we launch, like we've been talking all summer. We even came up with new strategy and new
Uh-huh.
focus, and now we're going into the small group year. But we're
Yep.
always talking. I don't think you can ever get to a place where you're like everything is
Right.
great, everything
Well,
is groovy. Because
that-
as your groups grow, or as
Right.
your leader scale change, maybe one year you have older leaders, and now you've got younger leaders. So it's always great to keep an open conversation.
Yeah. Well, when we would do, I don't think it's in Purpose Driven Youth Ministry, the book, even though, I should know if it is or not. I don't think this statement is. But when we used to do Purpose Driven Youth Ministry conferences a lot, and Doug would teach, one of the sections was why small groups are a big deal.
Yeah.
And, the reality is, at least for us, and I think more and more youth groups, small groups have been around now, the idea of doing small groups in youth ministry. When I was in high school ministry, we had small groups. When I was in high school.
Yeah.
So that's going back 35 years now, something like that. When I was in high school, and our youth group had small groups, and they just become more and more popular and more of a ongoing, something I think most youth groups would view as borderline indispensable, a really
Yeah.
key piece. They're a big deal. So today, here's one of the things we want to talk about. We've talked about this. This was a question somebody sent us in an email, and it was simply this. We've maybe used different languages. This was the exact language this guy
Yeah.
used in the email he sent us, and he said, when you think about small groups, what is it about a small group that makes it attractive to teenagers?
Yeah.
So I said earlier, we've got more kids between junior high and high school.
Yeah.
We have more students sitting in a small group, attending regularly a small group, than we have attending regularly our big attractional kind of outreach-oriented youth ministry service.
Yeah.
So there's something obviously very attractive to a teenager about a small group. What is that? That's what this guy is asking. What is it that makes it attractive? So what are some of your thoughts on that?
I think the first thing that pops out to my head is community. Small groups. I think I wrote an article for a group, and it was on belonging. And I kind of alluded to the fact, growing up in Michigan, we didn't necessarily have gangs, but we had like street territory. So like if you were from Southwest Michigan, or if you were from, there's these 4 cities, Ecorse, Rouge, it still exists today. But if you were from one of those areas, you belong to something. So if I came out and I said, yeah, I live in Southwest Detroit, I belong to Southwest, I felt like an attachment to that. And I think that's a huge thing for kids, whether it's for negative purposes, whether it's a gang, or whether you're claiming street cred, or if you're in a small group to grow, your spiritual growth. It's just the same. I think they're looking for the same thing. And so for us, success has been about creating community, keeping that a vital part of what we do, is creating community. So that looks like, kind of having a area where we can go, same school, maybe not necessarily like same likes or interests, but maybe same area of living, closer to each other demographically. But just you don't have to go too crazy, but you're thinking, what's the best way we can build community for this kid that's going to last? Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes if you're pulling, I don't know, this could be some people's case where they're pulling from very far away.
Yeah.
But we try to look for things that we can do that build a better.
So you're talking at this level. Like, we as youth pastors know students, teenagers, whether they can articulate it or not, we know deep down everybody wants to belong.
Yeah.
They want community. They want to be known. That's huge. That's what makes it attractive. Let's talk teenage language.
Yeah.
If we brought in a 10th grade boy and we said, doesn't matter whether you're Saddleback in Southern California or you're in North Dakota somewhere, you're a 10th grade boy, comes walking in here, and we said, why do you like small groups so much? What would he say? Put it in his language. Like, just start rattling off qualities of a small group that make it attractive to that 10th grade boy.
Well, I think, having a place where he can feel comfortable to be himself, having a place where he feels comfortable to share whatever, he needs to share. I always put in an expression of having students be able to come to life groups and just like let their shoulders down and feel like, okay, this is a safe place for me to share. I think that's that rounds off that community piece, a place where they can, go. And I think leader definitely plays a huge part in it. Not in the sense that you need to be this stereotypical youth pastor who's all hip, who wears Jordans and wears a hat and all. I do all those things. I'm
so what are you saying about yourself there, AC? That you're stereotypical but kind of shallow and kind of not. What are you saying?
No, it comes natural to me. No, okay. I'm just kidding. Gotcha. But you don't have to be that person. I think a leader plays a huge part in the success of the small group. You are creating this atmosphere for them. Also, I think another thing, and you can jump in at any time, but another thing that I think is having it be your small groups, instructing your leaders to definitely lead, but lead from an approach of facilitating. Mm-hmm. Allowing students to feel free to maybe say something that may not be, doctrinally correct, or, in the vein of our Christianese language, but just to be real and say, I don't feel like God's close to me. I feel like He's distant, and I don't know what to do about that.
I think it's a 1-2 punch. So I think part of what makes it attractive, part of what makes a small group ministry attractive to a teenager, is both what we as older adult leaders make sure is in place, even though they may not know it's what they want, we know it's what they want. They might not ever articulate it.
Yeah.
And it is also giving them what they articulate.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the 10th grade boy would come in and he said, well, it's where I see friends. It's where I can get prayed for. It's where I can ask questions. It's where I can be myself.
Yeah.
It's where I don't have to worry about, in our case, girls aren't in small groups, so I don't have to perform.
Yeah.
I don't have to be cool. I don't have to be the jock. I don't have to worry about what the girls think. I'm just hanging out with my buddies. I can be real.
Yeah.
I like our leader. I think that's all stuff that once in a while, not very often, at least not in my experience, but once in a while they'll say deeper Bible study, better lessons. They don't. That's not at the top.
Yeah.
It's not at the top.
Yeah.
Even though as youth pastors we tend to think that's so vitally important.
Yeah.
So
as they move on, upper
for an
you'll hear
11th
from-
grader
yeah.
more so than from a 7th grader.
Yeah.
For sure. I think that's all stuff they would say.
Yeah.
I think stuff that we know needs to be there, that some of this is reflected. For me, I think one of the biggest things as leaders that we want to try to do is, I think what makes a small group so attractive is how it feels.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
they may not articulate it, but how it feels when you walk in, to let your shoulders down. This feels safe.
Yeah.
This feels like the playing field is level for all of us.
All the intangibles.
I think of Cole's small group all throughout junior high and high school. He was in basically the same small group all the way through 7th grade through 12th grade. And in that small group, it was way too big, by the way. Just a side note for you high school staff. You gotta
It's
get
small
more,
group
you
for a
gotta
reason.
get more
It's
leaders.
a small group.
It was not a small group. It was a small youth group. There were like 16 guys,
Yeah.
right? But there was super athletic kids.
Yeah.
There was the super non-athletic, but they were class president and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. There were some kids who were both. They were athletic and class president. There were some kind of skater kids and surfer kids and musician type kids. And man, I'll tell you what, somehow in a small group, none of that stuff mattered. Right? It might have for the first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But eventually the leaders did such a good job of going, hey, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When you come into this garage, we're just a bunch of dudes who get together and share life. It
Yeah.
just felt safe. It was the one place you didn't have to worry about the social ladder, right?
Yeah.
I think it needs to feel relaxed. We talk about real, relevant, relational, relaxed. How it feels, I think, is what makes a small group super, super attractive to kids.
Yeah.
You guys put on, and our junior high ministry puts on, and I'm sure a lot of the youth ministries watching this show put on really good youth ministry programs.
Yeah.
Our weekend program is as good as most. It's not perfect, but it's as good as most, right? We've seen the best. We've gone to North Point and Willow Creek and some of those churches and seen like the best program for teenagers you can see.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, at every one of those youth groups, at your youth group, at our youth group, kids involved in a small group, if they have to miss something on a given week,
Yeah.
they're going to miss the big, really cool show.
Yeah. 10 times out of 10.
Way before they're going to miss life group.
Yeah.
They don't want to miss life group. If they have to miss the other thing for a family picnic or because they got scheduled to work or whatever, they'll deal with it.
Yeah.
They're going to do whatever it takes not to miss small group.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for that is the way small groups they just feel good to kids.
Yeah.
They feel real. They feel authentic.
And I think if you're, every church doesn't do decentralized or a night just for small groups. Maybe
It's attached
it's attached to the program, but I think the principles apply still.
Yes.
I would probably weigh heavier on the leader aspect of it because you're kind of a part of something that has already taken place.
Yeah.
And so, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say for sure, but you're kind of competing a little bit. Like they just came out of this large group experience. I don't know how big or how, active it is. I'm probably
I guarantee you.
We love youth ministry. We are doing a podcast in ant infested.
Yeah, we didn't have to do it here. We could have gone any other
I know.
office in the building, but here we are.
But I would say it's definitely more on the leader to really just think, okay, kind of reading your group. We've just come out of this large,
You're talking
crazy,
about for the ministries that have them attached.
for the ministries that
Yes.
have them attached,
Yeah.
for the leader to go. We just
Oh,
came out
yeah.
of this large, so kind of read your guys a little bit because I already know for our groups we meet on Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights, at 7.
Right.
So kids have already
You're not
been
saying
to
you're
school.
not saying, just for clarity, they don't meet both nights. They pick
Yeah,
either
they
Tuesday
pick
or
either
Wednesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday night.
Yeah.
But they've been to school, they've had dinner, they've done homework, and we're getting them at 7:00 at night when it's really like TV time. It's kind of like the night they got to get everything in before they go to bed. And so if I'm just I need to get this done, then I'm not paying attention to the signs of where the students are when they come in.
Right.
A lot of times they need to get energy out
Right.
so that we can actually sit down and talk and have a
Yeah.
discussion. And I've heard many stories of leaders who don't read the signs of where their group is,
Right.
and they either try to go, well, they just need to learn the word. They
Yeah.
just need to hear the word,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
they totally do.
Okay. I'm just going to try.
Yeah.
You're talking about something really important, and it's the next topic of the day.
Oh, okay.
This other
Yeah.
question, and the question was, what are some of the qualities of a good small group leader?
Yes.
And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're talking. I mean, you're starting.
Yeah.
A good small group leader can read his group.
Yeah.
Right. Scripture says, "Know well the condition of
Yeah.
the flock."
Yeah.
That is a overall. How's my flock doing, and how are they doing right now?
Yeah.
Right. Like,
In this moment.
overall they're healthy. Right now, they're completely squirrely.
Yeah.
Right.
And all over the place.
So let's take what you were saying and use that as a launching pad into. Let's just ramble off.
Yeah.
What makes a good small group leader? A lot of these guys and gals out there are in the process of recruiting new leaders and hoping
Yeah.
they'll be small group leaders.
Yeah.
What makes a good small group leader? What do we need to look for? What are some characteristics and some traits
I
that,
think,
that they either already have or we can train them on?
yeah, I think getting people who actually want to be there, and when I say want to be there, I mean like students. They don't have to be all. They don't have to say, "Yeah, I love students." I think they're doing it out of, or I've heard this before, where people serve either because they feel a call to the ministry or they feel called to help you out. So I'll give I'm helping you, so I'm here
I'll do
to
whatever I
help
need
you.
to
I'll
do.
do whatever I need
Yeah.
to do. And then there are some who are called to ministry and feel
walk
like
alongside.
God has called me to youth ministry
Right.
as a volunteer.
Okay.
I think you deciphering who those people are, you could totally push those who feel like they've been called to do definitely more.
Yeah.
And I would
So
kinda push
a sense of longing and calling to it.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else? What else we got?
I think you can pretty much I mean, they need to be a believer, of course. They need to know Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
we've-
Right.
You would think that's you would think that's of course. However, we have had our
I just
moments.
wa- oh.
We've had our moments where we've realized down the road, I'm not
Yeah.
sure
Everybody that
this
say
guy-
they believe.
this guy knew what to put on the application.
Yeah.
However, in hindsight, now that we're paying attention,
It's never a bad thing to overlook your
Yes.
your application process.
yeah. Okay,
every
so
single year.
now
But-
let me add some stuff.
Yeah.
I do agree. A true desire to want to minister to teenagers, not just hey, I'll do whatever you need me to do.
Yeah.
I don't really like teenagers.
I think you
but
can use those people, but
Yeah,
use
yeah.
them for
Other
something
stuff.
else.
Yeah. Have them organize the supply closet.
Yeah.
And you see our supply closet.
Oh,
I need
yeah.
I need some
Yeah.
people who will do whatever
Yeah.
needs to be done because apparently none
Have
of
them-
none of us are willing to.
Have them grill.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so a sense of calling. I would say not only a believer. I actually think we should aim for mature believers.
Yeah.
I think youth ministries make the mistake of putting immature believers with teenagers.
Yeah.
Oh, just let them cut their teeth, right?
Yeah.
And teenagers, of all the people in our church, teenagers need mature believers. Here's why: little kids aren't questioning yet.
Yeah.
So they don't know the difference, right? So some guy could be teaching heresy, and the little third grader doesn't even know it.
Yeah.
It's not going to impact his life next week. An adult, somebody could be teaching heresy, and they know it.
Yeah.
And they call it out, and they call BS on that,
Yeah.
right? And they sniff it out. They're good Bereans. Teenagers are kind of in the middle, where something may not make sense to them, but they follow authority, and so they just believe what they're taught because hey, AC would put this leader in with me if they weren't, and so they,
Yeah.
right? They're much more impressionable. You can an immature believer can do a lot of damage in the life of a teenager.
Yeah.
That isn't as quickly done.
Yeah.
In the life of a young child or a more mature believer. So I think they should have a sense of calling. They should be mature believers. I think they should be both leaders and followers.
Yeah.
So they need to be leaders, but they need to really follow the leadership of the pastoral team, the youth ministry leadership,
Yeah.
and just be on board with what we're asking them to do. I think they need to be really good listeners
Oh, for
and
sure.
love to listen to students.
Yeah.
They need to be good facilitators of conversation and good question askers.
That's
Right?
a huge.
They don't have to be great teachers. In fact,
Yeah.
we've learned some of the best teachers are the worst small group leaders
Yeah.
because all they want to do is
It's
pontificate
teach.
and teach, but they don't.
Well,
they don't,
that was
they
my
wanna hold
point
court.
with. I think that's the point with. I think you can train. Like I can take a kind of a person who's a believer who may not be, completely like, yeah, I've been through. I've been going to Bible study. I've been in a small group for 6 years, and someone who's been through doctrine, and I can take that person, almost the same as our adults, put a video and help them facilitate,
right.
kind of instruct them on, okay, this is how you would lead based on kind of like where you are.
Mhm.
Facilitate, ask great questions, learn in that field, because I think you're always going to be at a place to where you go, hey, I may not know that,
Totally.
or I may not.
Totally.
And we always teach our leaders, like,
Right.
if you don't know it, just say I don't know it, and let's learn together.
Yes,
let's grow together.
But that goes back to going full circle, and we need to wrap up.
Yeah.
That right there goes back to, that's one of the things that's so attractive about small group.
Yeah,
At the weekend program, the large group gathering, if Josh is teaching, or you're teaching, or Katie, or me, or whoever it is, we are the experts on that topic for the day,
yeah,
right? Because in our context, we're standing up in front of
Yeah.
a pretty crowded room full of teenagers,
Yeah.
and there's not a whole lot of room for us to take questions
yeah,
or for us to not know for sure if we
Yeah.
understand what we're talking about.
yeah,
So it feels like I am imparting my knowledge to you. You soak it in.
Yeah.
By design.
yeah,
A small group, man, for you or Josh or Katie or me in our small groups to say, guys, I don't know for sure. What do you guys think? What have you read in Scripture that can speak to that? How about if we all take this week and do some study and come back with what we find? Because I'm not sure I'm ready to give you an answer. That's huge.
huge for the
It's
student.
huge. It's authentic. It's real. It gives them the freedom to question and doubt and not have answers all the time.
Yeah.
It's great. It's
I-
great.
Just to end on this, I think that's the lesson that I hear most students talk about when they talk about their leader. And like one thing they've learned is they didn't have to be right all the time.
Yeah.
They helped me find out things for myself versus thinking that I needed to appear
Yeah.
deeper than I was,
Yeah.
or because they modeled transparency, they modeled authenticity, just saying, hey, I don't know. I
Right.
think that's a huge thing to leave with.
So,
students.
in closing, we've talked about a lot of stuff. Not everybody's going to do this, but I'm going to give everybody a little assignment if they want. If you're neck deep in small groups and you're struggling a little bit, I would encourage you, because we've talked all around stuff. If you were to go back and watch this show, it's another 20-minute investment. But if you're going to get a piece of paper and just start jotting down, just write up at the top, put what makes a small group ministry attractive, and just listen to what we're talking about and write down some bullet points.
Yeah.
What are the qualities of a good small group leader? Listen to what we're talking about. Just write down some bullet points. Take out all the Tim Tebow stuff and anti-tax.
Yeah, started at
all
like
those-
3 minutes.
Take all that off, and just write some quick bullet points. And you guys, in your own context, you can figure out, well, what does that look like? How do you define authentic, and what does that look like in your setting? I think it would be well worth your time. Next week, or not next week, but the next show, we'll come back and we'll take a look at 2 more areas concerning small groups.
Yep. All right. If you want to subscribe, let's always.
Oh yeah.
Want to subscribe? Hit that button and subscribe. We're building a small community. It's growing.
It's growing. It's a
It's
small
growing.
army of
And-
ant-like people.
It's growing on us. Subscribe. You can send them if you have a question or a comment. You can send it to talkyouthministry at gmail.com. We'll see you guys next time. Peace out.